Hello, my name is Martin Bresniak, and this thing you can see behind me is my fish tank manager or controller. Its main purpose is for making running fish tanks like this a whole lot easier by providing the user with a bunch of useful information and automating a handful of tasks here and there. So, yeah, I'm going to show you how it works. Alright, this right here is what the inside of my device looks like. It is being powered by the Atmega 32 PB board. That's the same one that I've been using in the labs. We have a 5-volt digital relay. There's two of them. One of them is connected out here that goes over to this pump. The other one actually isn't in use, but that's there for if in the future for some reason I decide I want to add something to this. The option is there, good to have. Then of course right here we have the LCD screen. You can see it right there. We have this thing right here, this little chip, which makes it a lot easier to work with. We've got the two tri-colored LEDs. If I flip it up, there they are. And then for our inputs, we got these three user interface buttons right here. Over here in the water reservoir, we have the magnetic float switch in there. And over on the fish tank over here, we have the optical sensor. Oh, and that pump, by the way, is being powered by this 12 volt. Then we have the temperature sensor. That's just right there. Over here we have the breadboard that connects everything together. There's some resistors in there, jumper wires. This right here goes to the optical sensor. This right here goes to the temperature sensor. So first let's talk about its main function, and that is for keeping the water level of the tank at a constant and good level. An issue that pretty much all fish tanks face is that water is constantly evaporating out of the tank. It's not a whole lot, but if left unattended, the tank could drop a pretty significant level, and that's bad for a few reasons, but I won't go into too crazy depths on them now. It's just not good. You don't want that to happen, and maintaining that on your own is kind of annoying. Thankfully, this thing takes care of it for you. So this sensor right here is constantly checking to see if its water level is good. That, of course, could be moved up and down depending on how you like it. Right now, we just have it there. While that's submerged, this machine will do nothing. However, the moment that tank loses some water, so I'm going to speed up the process here. So you can see right there, it is starting to pour water into it until it fills up. And of course there are some waves right now, so it's just trying to level things out. The moment the waves sort of slow down, just like that, the tank is now perfectly level. And it's of course, obviously that right there is drastic. It had to probably fill up a few more times than it normally would, but that's generally how the fill up works. Now, of course, how in the world did, of course, that happen? So, once that switch was no longer touching the water, it turned on this pump right here, which then pumped in water from this sort of container right here. Now, there's a few things that could potentially happen that could, cause some mix-ups in this scenario. So, first things first. What if this right here is empty, so it doesn't have any water to actually pump to the tank? Not great. However, we do in fact have a solution for that. Right in there, you can see there is a float switch. That right there that float switch is currently up right now. It's kind of hard. Oh yes, that's good. So that right there, you can see the float switch is currently up right now. This green light right here, the one on the left, corresponds to that. So while that float switch is up, that means there's still water to be filled into the tank. However, of course, if there is no water in the reservoir, then there's nothing to fill up the tank. So as you can see here, there is currently no water in it, and over here the red light is on, meaning that the reservoir is empty. Also, as you can see on the screen here, it says the water level is good. And if I go ahead and remove some water, nothing will happen. And now it says the water level is low, but it's not doing anything about it because it's red. The next major issue that could happen with this is, what if that sensor falls out of the tank? The device is programmed to always fill when there's no water. If that switch right there is out of the tank, then there will never be water hovering it, meaning that will constantly be pumping in water into there, and that would essentially could flood whatever area the tank is in, and that's not great. So install a sort of fail-safe option or sort of logic in there to make sure it doesn't work. How does it work? Well, time to talk about this thing right here, that weird number on there. That basically stands for fill up number. What does that mean? Well, as you may have noticed, as the fish tank is being filled up, it doesn't constantly fill it up. It does it in small little increments. So if I take some water out right here, that number right there will constantly go up, which basically shows how many times in a row water is being filled in. If at any point that number goes above 25, now that means something is terribly wrong, because yeah, okay, I'm obviously scooping out a ton of water, but in reality, for the amount of water that's being evaporated, since it's filling it up almost instantly, it should basically fill the tank up in maybe 2 or 3 pumps, maybe 4. If it reaches 25, then something has gone terribly wrong and the float switch may have fallen out. If that happens, and I'll actually show it off right here by taking out water so it can actually fill back up the tank. As you can see, the number here has reached 25. If that happens, that red light now begins to flash red, meaning something has went terribly wrong and you should probably go check it out. And that flashing arrow right here, it also will display an EO right there, kind of representing that something did indeed go wrong. Same thing also goes for the float switch as well. If that float switch goes down, these errors will never go away until the user confirms that everything is fixed and they can return back to a normal sort of state of running. The next feature that this system includes is a temperature sensor, which can be seen right there. One of these things right here, these are the heaters, it could break. So what I decided to do is include this temperature thing. So it's constantly checking the temperature, as you can see. If at any point that temperature thing goes below the recommended amount, the moment I put it into that cold, the temperature will begin to drop, and now that it's below the recommended amount, that LED begins to flash blue. Now that flashing basically means that flashing LED means bad things. On top of that, this E- is a message that shows up showing that at some point the temperature went below its recommended amount. If we put this into the hot water now, the temperature will begin to climb, and now that LED is flashing red. The message has also been updated to include that both sometime during the day or whenever, that temperature both went above and below the recommended amount. As for why it stays there, well, it's fairly important to constantly to know if something went wrong. So even if it fixes by itself, who knows, that bad thing could potentially happen again, and it's important to constantly inform the user that there is indeed something went wrong and that they should maybe look into it, or maybe not. It's good to have that message still remain there. Alright, so now we have a whole bunch of errors going off right here. We have something went horribly wrong with this, and the temperature dropped below the recommended temperature, represented by the flashing LEDs and the error messages on the screen. What if everything is all fixed up? So right now the temperature is good and the water stat is good. How do we get rid of these errors and return the system back to normal? How does that work? We have these three buttons on the top right here. By holding down the middle button, we enter a menu where it asks, have all the errors been cleared up? If we click no, everything stays the way it is and the lights continue to flash. However, if we click yes, everything goes back to normal. So with this new device right here, it will make running the fish tanks far easier and far more automated. This in turn will keep whatever fish is inside of it. Obviously there's no fish in there right now, but eventually when there are fish in there, it will keep the fish happy and healthy. Thank you for watching.